It is December 30th, 2018. This is Fancy Ramen. I am Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
This is our post-Christmas and 2018 send-off. Not to be mistaken for a Game of the Year podcast, which would happen at a
We'll be
later
releasing
time.
soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So happy holidays, post-holidays. I don't think there are any holidays that have not passed yet. This
New
calendar
Year's
year.
Eve.
This calendar year. We're celebrating a new year soon, yes, and even Chinese New Year is like in February most of the time. So
Yeah.
2019 is, I think it's safe to say that 2018's holidays are over at this point in time.
2019's a coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'll give Scott New Year's Eve as a holiday in on its own.
Because it is on the 31st.
Okay, so my thing is that,
It's a lead up to the actual holiday.
yeah, exactly.
Have you
there's
seen
only
America
two-
in Christmas?
Yeah, there's only two Eves I can think of that we celebrate, and that's New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve.
Often we get
And
the day before
if we're
Thanksgiving off as
talking-
well.
Yeah. But nobody calls that Thanksgiving Eve.
Nobody does call that Thanksgiving Eve.
And it's definitely not a recognized holiday in most calendars. You won't find it labeled on a calendar for that day.
I don't know about you guys, but I celebrate Martin Luther King's Eve Day quite often.
You're a far better black person than I.
Yeah, me too.
The eve of Martin Luther King.
I usually just forget about that holiday altogether until the day comes up, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm not doing anything. Black power.
Yeah, so holidays. I just got back from Colorado. It was a magical
sweet
experience.
snowboarding.
No. In fact,
Do any-
I stayed inside as often as possible.
Ah, so you just went to Colorado to get baked.
Surprisingly, or not really surprisingly, I think for people that know me, I am not one to go for that reason.
Neil is very anti-drug, guys.
It's not like I'm anti-drug. It's just I don't like how it affects my particular body.
And that's why you slapped my vape out of my hands every time I saw you last year.
I did that because you were smoking Juul, and Juul is very impressionable on young people. So I felt that, Scott, you didn't know what you were getting into.
Well, it was my 11-year-old cousin who got me into it. So,
Like, look at the pretty colors, and it tastes like banana shake.
oh my gosh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I never knew this could be a flavor of vapor.
How the hell do you get that? Like, do you get that past copyright?
Shit, man, I don't know. Because maybe you can do Cinnamon Toast cereal or something like that, because that is not a copyrighted item.
Cinnamon toasted bread crunch.
I don't know what it is. To clear the record, I have no mythical 11-year-old cousin who's into vaping, and neither am I. You kids stay safe.
Stay safe out there. Don't get lured in by those fancy cereal flavored
Ramen.
drugs.
Yeah.
And instead, enjoy this bowl of fancy ramen.
Speaking of enjoying a bowl of fancy ramen, I need both of you guys to look up at some other point, schedule to PAX South. And
Okay.
Tell me things and people I should talk with and meet and shit.
Okay.
Because I'll be bringing some recording device for audio.
Oh, God, that's like in weeks.
That is literally in weeks. I'm super stoked.
How about you go and find the best League of Legends cosplayers
And do what?
and then
How will I
tell
know they're
them,
League of Legends cosplayers?
you go and find the best League of Legends cosplayers and then tell them you're Sky Williams. And if they're like typical Texas folk, then they
It's gonna
probably
work.
won't know the difference.
But they'll be at a video game conference, so I also don't think I think they'll know. Who's Sky Williams? I don't even know the difference.
Isn't he's a buddy of Donkey's.
Are they friends? That wouldn't surprise me. They both have like a similar sense of humor when it comes to...
I've seen them play Smash against one another.
And
Yeah,
holy shit, if I wasn't bald
it could almost
and,
work.
like 3 shades darker and not as Mexican,
Whoa.
I think he's Hispanic.
Is he? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm seeing some of these curls in some of these pictures.
Cookie's
He's got
Cookie's the only one of us with the discerning eye of someone who's actually black who can tell if someone has another ethnicity.
Like, he got that good hair if he is just straight up black. That good hair.
Is there an R in good?
Mm-hmm.
You almost have the same glasses, which I think helps a ton.
Yeah, it boils down simply to the point that he is a black man that has glasses, that
Who's
shaves
into
his
video
head
games?
often, that also has facial hair, but not like full on beard.
Thank you. We do struggle with our facial hair.
Is it the
His
struggle
mustache
or
looks
is it
glorious.
intentional? Because I feel like full on beard is like a whole commitment in its own.
Neil, I've been committing to full-on beard for years. You know the last time I've cut this bit of scruff?
Never?
No,
Exactly.
he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
So maybe it's an old wives' tale, but if you shave it, I think it's supposed to like grow
Definitely
in
an old wives'
better.
tale.
That is an old wives' tale.
Because otherwise, if you think about it this way, Neil, think of all the females who don't shave their legs over the winter, but then shave their legs in the summer. Why they don't just have fur coats of
Wait.
legs.
What are you talking about? Women shave their legs? What?
Exactly.
Is that? Wait, I just thought only men grew hair on their legs. What are you guys talking about?
I love you, Neil.
Okay, joking aside,
Okay.
you could go to. I'd recommend you go to WikiHow on how to grow your beard, and it gives you such great advice. Like if you're finding it's a little patchy, you could work out, and that'll increase your whatever masculine thing you need to do.
Testosterone.
Yes, that.
I don't think working out actually increases testosterone.
It increases your testosterone. Yes, that's my preferred pronunciation of that word. Testosterone.
Oh God, what are we a podcast about?
We've actually derailed, which is our ode to 2018 in a nutshell.
Is that our New Year's resolution not to derail?
No, I think we act as 2019 dictates.
Which is probably further off the rails, an even more adventurous time in the wild, unknown world of audio media.
With a mixture of fear of nuclear holocaust in there as well. Just a dash.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, Colorado. I played some games, but didn't really play a whole lot of games because, only on a laptop. And when you're moving from house to house on any given day and driving a couple hours each day, you don't necessarily have the time to like sit down and play some hardcore games. But I did get some stuff in that I'll talk about later. I did want to bring up an anime that I started watching while we were there that you guys might be interested in, given that you guys both like Tina Matsuri, I think.
Loved it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This anime is called Psyche K. I don't know if the K is supposed to be Kun or something like that. It's also a manga, of course, that I've written off, not as being dumb or anything, but I'd see the cover and see it's a guy with pink hair, and I just assumed it was going to be way too crazy for me or something. But Psyche K is about a student named Psyche K, a high school or middle schooler, don't think it necessarily matters, that
He's in high
has
school.
extremely powerful telekinetic and psychic abilities. Unlike other shows where it's like about so instead of going down the route of like Mob Psycho or other shows where it becomes a point of contention with other characters, he instead just wants to live a very normal lifestyle, be like as far in the background as he can. And it's more a show about him dealing with having psychic powers and the humor that follows it. Like, for instance, if you're extremely psychic, imagine how much of a pain in the butt it is being at your home just trying to sleep and rest when you can read everyone's mind within 300 meters. Or like dealing with your parents who know you're psychic and sometimes just want to use you around the house to move furniture.
I see that there is a part 1 and part 2 dodgeball, either chapter or episode, and I'm already into it.
Oh, and so like he's also not like the best at controlling his powers either. So like, let's say if he wanted to throw a dodgeball, he could just obliterate people with that dodgeball. But the problem from him is trying to get the most realistic throw. Like he wants to throw hard enough to make it seem like he's not a baby, but not too
But he
hard
doesn't want
to
to drill
obliterate
a hole
people.
through someone with a rubber ball. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. It's very enjoyable. I also would venture to say, imagine running into the popular girl who is so perfect, and hearing her thoughts about how she realizes she is also perfect. And, and how surprised she is that this pink-haired boy does not gasp at her every time he sees her.
I want to say that's one of the best gags in that manga/anime. I've actually watched it.
Oh, you have seen it?
I haven't, so I will, because this is in my lane.
I haven't seen season 2 because unfortunately I watched season 1 in English, and now I just can't go back to reading. I can't do it.
The full name is The Disastrous Life of Psyche K.
And that's the reason I watched it, because animes with super long titles
are normally great, yeah.
I am going to say one gag. So he hardly talks to people in general. And to his family who know he's psychic, he only talks to them psychically, or like through their minds.
Through telepathy.
So as a result, I don't think you ever see his mouth move except to eat coffee jelly or drink things. Like
that is the only time his mouth moves. He talks to everyone psychically.
And they just I don't think they realize, like the people that don't know he's psychic, I don't think they realize that he's talking to him telepathically.
I want to say he ended up they explained it in like one episode why people in the anime have like weird colored hairs is because he altered the entire planet to make that like an okay thing. And that also altered, like, they can do a lot of the crazy gags where people are just like thrown out of like windows and things, and they like bounce back and they're okay. He's like, that's because when he was younger, someone got hurt and he healed them. So then they thought they could just do that all the time, and that just altered the entire planet to be able to like bounce back from things. So him not talking through his mouth is also just a normal thing that can happen in this world.
Yeah.
So the world used to be like ours until he started making slight tweaks to make his life a little more comfortable.
Like everyone has that rapid healing factor now. And it's just because he had to cover up for his own healing one day.
It's great.
Good show. I highly recommend it. I'll talk about the games later. What have you guys been up to?
So season 3 of The Magicians is now on Netflix, and I ended up binging that yesterday after the final Christmas while painting some, not miniatures, but some rubble, I guess, for the game that I play Sunday nights. But yeah, just been... And I also finished watching Goblin Slayer. I caught up on Goblin Slayer.
Did he slay them all?
Pretty much. There was this big rousing speech about how the goblins were going to attack his village that he lived in a second time, and how he wasn't going to let that happen, but also he was going to die, and the big boob girl that was really fond of him wasn't going to leave.
Which one? This is Anime Cookie.
I think there was only actually one.
Oh.
And he ended up giving a rousing speech at the guild hall, and they all went and cheered and fought goblins together.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. And also more episodes started coming out of that one time I got reincarnated as a slime. I've been watching a lot of anime.
Yeah.
Yep, a lot of anime, and that's about it. And The Magicians. Love The Magicians. I need to actually pick up and read those books.
Oh, they're based off of a book series?
Mm-hmm. About a world where magic is real. This world where magic is real, and shit goes down. Shit goes down hard. So, that's pretty much been my week.
Nice.
What you been up to, Scott?
Well, let's see. I've been taking care of Sierra and I's dog single-handedly as a single dog parent while she's out for the holiday season. So it has left me more or less like stuck at home for quite a bit of time. So I haven't been doing anything too thrilling, unfortunately, but I have been making some pretty exciting purchases because online shopping is a great way to cure boredom.
What'd you get?
Yeah, it's irresponsible, but I love it. I have upgraded my home to the highest amount of luxury that is within my reach, and that is purchased a bidet.
Holy shit! I've been shopping around for a bidet.
Gotta get one.
Can I?
Yeah, definitely been.
You can
Yeah.
interject, Neil. I know you're all about bidets.
Yeah, can I get personal here? This is something I've been very interested in, but I wanted to know like some of the workings of the bidet. It's something like I haven't really researched myself, so I'm just curious.
You don't drink from it.
Well, yes.
It's still toilet
How
water.
strong is the jet supposed to be? Like, is it supposed to be strong enough where there's a slight amount of penetration?
Oh my god.
No,
mean, if
I'm
you-
really
if you
not
want
trying
it
to be
that way.
gross. I'm just like curious
I get
how
it.
thorough, like how strong is the stream?
So that's what's nice about a higher end bidet is that there's actually stream management controls where you can go from like a fine mist that just sort of gives you a very light misting to your backside before you clean up completely, because I bathroom tissue is still necessary, but you can save on a lot of it by utilizing the bidet.
You didn't get one with the dryer?
No, I didn't get one with a dryer. I wasn't that fancy.
At least tell me you got the warm and cold water mix, right?
Oh no, I love cold water. I got the cheapest fucking bidet I could find.
Okay, so with the adjustable
Not the cheapest,
spray,
but
like that answers one of my questions. Well, okay, again, not to get personal, but
didn't answer your penetration question, so let me answer that.
Yeah.
That's probably too strong. If you've got that powerful of a stream, you may want to tone it down a little bit, because the idea is to clean the outside of your body and not the inside as well.
I mean,
But Neil likes it rough.
no, like
What are you?
I just feel like there's an opportunity that like, do you want to clean that's going to be even cleaner than anything that toilet paper can manage?
Do you want to clean that resonates within your body? We're talking about cleaning the outside of your body and not an enema. And so that's where you should probably draw the line on your interest. And the only reason I didn't go for a hot water, a cold water adjustable is because I found that I would have to either have a cable running into the cabinet to get to my hot water line in my bathroom, which is in an apartment I do not own, and therefore a modification I cannot make, or I actually don't think there's an alternative option, so that's why I didn't pick it.
So, another question. Was yours a long toilet or a short toilet?
My toilet is an elongated bowl. It is not a
Or
round
is it regular?
bowl.
Yeah, round was the word. I still haven't. The reason I haven't pulled a trigger is because I haven't actually measured to look to see what's actually going to fit. But I
Yeah,
do want the ones that I want the one I've been looking at one. It's about $450 right now. It's got the
Oh, yeah, that's-
dryer.
Well beyond what I have. I just have the hair dryer, hooked up next to the toilet. So
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing with your bidet, you went with the one that's got the controls directly on the seat itself.
Yes.
Okay. I'm also looking at remotes because the last thing I need is someone to try and lift themselves up using the thing and then immediately let it snap off, because I have drunk people who pee at my house, but I think the bidet will go into our master bath in the because the other bathroom now has you were here.
Yeah, I know
It's
your
got-
bathroom situation. I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's got the fancy flusher now though. So it's fine. So it's fine.
So, okay, question. Are you sure your guests aren't just using your sink to pee?
99% sure.
Okay,
They're too short.
I
That's the
don't
issue.
know if you're aware of the Reddit community called sink pissers, I think, or something like that. Because that's apparently a thing. And when I was introduced to that, aside from being repulsed, I immediately thought to myself, I'm sure I've probably washed my hands in a piston sink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's why I throw away any toothbrush that has fallen in my sink.
That's actually a good advice.
Mm-hmm. No, a toothbrush is cheap enough, and the amount of times that you accidentally drop it in the sink, it's totally fine. additionally, I don't know. I'm a big germaphobe.
Who buys a
So-
toothbrush one at a time anyway?
Yeah, we buy packs anyway.
They
We've
come in packs.
opted to the like those little bamboo packs too. So a little more sustainable toothbrush that
Not
You can
sustainable
feed
if
to
you're
your-
throwing it away every 3 days because you keep dropping them in the sink.
I luckily have a little bit better grip than that. I'm on a 2-month hot streak, and you replace your toothbrush after every 3 months anyway, ideally. So
Correct. Ooh, speaking of online shopping though, I did purchase something and I'm really
Mhm.
excited about it. These really nice shoes.
ooh, monk strap shoes.
Were you just wearing
The-
them?
Those are great.
No, it was not.
Okay.
But they just came in today. They were $24.
Amazon.
Cookie's sense of style is
Amazon.
like top notch. Truly, you've got an excellent shoe game,
Thank you. Thank you.
and your jackets are nice too.
And speaking of online purchases, I got this Huggle for Christmas.
Nice.
I was
we
wondering
were
what
just
that
having
was.
this debate. Is
Yeah.
it everything you want it to be and more? Is it your it is a poncho then?
Yeah, it's basically a poncho. The only thing I would change about it, I think, is that the wrists are cinched, like with elastic. And I'd
Mm.
prefer it to just
You
be
want it
like
loose?
Yeah, I just prefer it to be more blanket like. In fact, if it were just a poncho, like an oversized wide poncho, that might be a little better. But I can see the benefit of having sleeves. Like I can go and use the restroom in this, whereas if I just had an oversized blanket hood poncho, that probably wouldn't happen.
We're really keeping a focused topic now.
Thanks. Yeah. Hey Neil, do you want to do me a favor? Do you want to get up and give us a little spin?
Oh,
Yeah, give us a
guys.
spin, Neil.
I'm not getting up. I'm sorry, guys. After the podcast.
See, I just saw the little Sherpa lining on the collar and thought that Neil had maybe finally purchased a dog bed and wrapped it around him and sewn it shut.
Yeah, so I don't have to like wrap myself in a blanket because it's 40 degrees in the basement. No, it's technically 60 degrees in the basement right now, but it's kind of chilly.
No, that's a bit
cold.
cold.
That's cold.
Yeah, that
Yeah, that's our weeks. I mean, I've hung out, but there's nothing more exciting than a bidet. I kind of started strong and I want to finish strong. So
bidet.
Proud of you.
What a way to. Oh, okay. I have one more question about the bidet. Like,
yeah, go for it.
is there like a learning process involved with like aiming?
Yes, you do have to kind of figure out what your preferred angle is. That's part of setup, like doing trial and error.
So like you're installing this with your pants off because you have to like sit down and shoot it and then get back up and like readjust. Is that?
Hell yeah, you got to do it at least half naked, and hopefully from the waist down.
But you still
And then,
want to wear like a dressy top, not dressy, but you still want to wear like a
Dressy
beat
top.
up t-shirt so that way like you feel like you're still in appropriate house maintenance wardrobe.
I mean, sure, that's fine. I don't know. Man, I get pretty intimate when I'm working with, chemicals. If I'm cleaning my bathtub, I'm going to have to take a shower anyway.
Yeah, I do a lot of my cleaning and maintenance naked too, so
It's
fine.
easier. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
'cause you
like
don't have
you're
to worry
going to
about
have to
getting
clean
things
up
dirty.
anyway.
Yeah. But you also have to worry about getting bleach on sensitive areas.
Bruh, I'm a chemist. I'm built to avoid like chemical spills at all points in time.
Bruh, I married a biologist. That doesn't
know
give
our
me
way
any
around.
inherent that doesn't give me any inherent skills or
Resilience.
anything. But but
I don't know.
You best believe if I spill something, I know how to wash things out.
Neil, you got to try it. You got to see the convenience that it will bring to your life before you knock it.
Oh, trust me. Like, I'm not trying to knock it. It's something that I've been interested in, but it's one of those things I'd rather go and find a hotel that has a bidet and stay there only for that purpose, and then just give it a shot. So I imagine, the trip would be me going out for burritos beforehand, like excessive amounts of food. Chinese food,
You're terrible.
burritos, Indian curry, and then...
Oh man, you're
And then
awful.
just
And
destroying
I
the
was
toilet.
yeah, and I was trying to sell you on cleaning naked at that point because I think the bidet has spoken for itself as a piece of like technology that that is useful in the modern age.
I mean, yeah, I'd agree.
Frankly, it's just a shame that that's not a normal everyday thing in U.S. households worldwide.
We're in the Stone Age still in some ways.
Our trains suck too. I mean, they're still trains, so they're cool. But like, look at.
But our electrical sockets are at least pretty great.
Are they?
I mean, I don't know. I'm annoyed with the fact that there is not a universal socket configuration.
Yeah, I guess if you do go to Japan, it's that one thing. If you go to other
Europe,
places
it's
in
the
Europe,
other thing.
it's the other thing. And if you go to America, it's the face, the surprise face.
Yeah. It used to just be a kite with an iron key on it, though, so we have made progress.
Just a little bit.
Well, guys,
Let's talk about
if you're all done with your bidet questions, let's talk about some video games. Neil,
Video
I've got a
games
couple
and
questions
more.
for you, and that is your approach for today to talk about all of your gaming experience in 2018 as a cohesive and coherent send-off, or are we just talking?
It's a normal episode,
Games for the
like
end of
any
the
other,
year.
basically. We'll
Nothing
have
to see here.
we'll have game of the year conversations ahead of us. So let's talk about what we did like normal.
Before that, can I derail just a little bit more?
Sure.
There's a pandemic that's called Fall of Rome that's coming out in 2019.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That sounds great.
I hope it is going to be great.
Wait, a
Okay,
pandemic?
Yeah, no Paradox game, Fall of Rome, isn't it?
No, it's
No.
pandemic.
Oh, a
I'm
pandemic
thinking
game.
of something
Okay. Okay.
completely different.
Wait, or did I read the word pandemic wrong? Nope, it's pandemic. Fall of Rome.
is
Yeah, you're
pandemic.
right. I
Okay.
just when you said
Paradox
there's a pandemic.
also has a Rome game coming out. Yeah, that's what it is. Imperator Rome is the Paradox game that's coming out. We both got very hyped for very different Roman games.
It's okay. Rome 2019 is the year of Rome. Ubisoft did it first though, so it's fine.
I thought they
No.
did Greece.
They did do Gris shit.
I mean, I don't know. Like maybe some middle schoolers will get them confused with you, or
They
ill-informed adults. I guess we all kind of.
Oh, so Americans? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Video games.
what's everybody been playing?
I picked up Chroma Squad again. It's something that was pretty easy for me to play on the laptop. It's the make your own Power Rangers type game. I would not necessarily recommend anyone go out and do this unless they're really into Sentai. And I said Sentai with an S, aka Power Ranger type shows and stuff. But it's like a tactical RPG where you also have elements of like upgrading your studio to get more audience interaction and blah, blah, blah. I stopped playing it because it got kind of boring and stale within like the first couple hours of gameplay. I picked it back up and I was kind of pleasantly surprised, but not really, that there's a twist in the story that is in line with Samurai Flamenco. I don't know if you guys watch that anime, but
I've seen half of it.
I've seen the first episode of it.
It's essentially like the Gurren Lagann format of things start out simple enough and then all of a sudden they're like fighting a multiverse or something.
yeah.
Why did no one tell me this before?
I mean,
I know,
again,
because the first episode kind of sucks, but it gets
It does.
it gets better and better, but I still dropped off in the middle of it, so I don't know how much I could recommend it.
I would almost even say that it goes a bit beyond like that. So it starts off as kind of like a sort of lukewarm comedy because it's a guy that wants to be like the
A
Red Ranger.
superhero. Yeah.
And then it becomes like there's a slight bit of like suspense that happens because suddenly people start dying and real monsters start showing up, and then it becomes an actual Sentai show, and then it becomes kind of a weird pseudo romance thriller.
Yeah, I'm fine with this.
It is a show of transformation. That is for sure.
Truly.
Like, what you watch in episode 1 is almost irreconcilable with what you watch for episode 6 even. You're just like, wait, is this the same show? Like, it's drawn the same and some of these characters look similar, but there's no
Yes.
way this is the same thing.
See, I just thought it was just going to be some delusional guy running around, and I was kind of bored for the first episode, so I was just like, eh.
You
Oh, he's
know,
still
you know
delusional.
what I'm gonna say. There is still a delusional character. It just might not be the one you're thinking of.
Oh, sweet. Is it the cop that he runs into?
I don't know. I mean, we've already spoiled so much for you, but I don't want to spoil that one thing. So if you do
Yeah, there's
watch
still
it,
some treats to be had.
I was gonna say, no, you had me at it. It's a Gurren Lagann type thing where things just spiral out of control, and that's like the best form of entertainment for me.
now let me be clear. I'm not saying that about Chroma Squad. When it turns face and it turns out you have to become real Sentai Power Rangers, it stays way more in the character of itself, I guess you could say. It never takes itself too seriously and just suddenly, whoa, we can actually transform now, blah blah blah. And they work in an angle where like the TV audience that you have also powers you up through the nature of, who knows, the human collective consciousness.
Is it sort of like the Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door mechanic?
I have no idea. I did not play Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door mechanic.
I will give you a quick idea of it to see how familiar these two concepts might be, because it is one of my favorite weird turn-based RPG mechanics I've ever encountered. In the 1,000-Year Door, all of your fights happen in front of an audience. And as you progress through the game, the audience gets larger and therefore like more involved in watching your fights and getting engaged. And sometimes there can be, like, if you perform really well, the audience gets boosted by it and their applause like fills up your meters so you can use your star powers. I think they're star powers faster. So you can like pull off tricks in the middle of attacks. Yeah, you dab at the end of a hammer swing, for instance. Or like you stick a landing after a jump and the audience will applaud and fill up your power meter a little bit. At the same time, they can also like engage with bad actors. Like sometimes they'll throw items at you, like a hammer or something, and so you can run into the audience and like beat up the audience member and make them flee from the crowd. It's so cute and funny, and it makes such a more like engaging mechanic for all of the fights. That's one of my favorite RPGs.
So I hate to burst your bubble, but Chroma Squad has none of that. It's
not
just
that good.
It's more just the implication through the plot that you're gaining your powers thanks to the audience believing in you.
Oh, okay. That's dumb. I don't like that near as much.
But it's been a pleasant thing to play, like on the road and stuff. And then aside from that, I finally because it feels like I should have started immediately after we finished 999. I finally started the second game in the Nonary trilogy called Virtue's Last Reward. I can already tell after getting through the first puzzle and the first 2 hours of dialogue that this game is going to be super convoluted, have ridiculous puzzles that barely make sense until like you enter that right frame of mind. And yeah, I'm so excited for the Nonary games. I can't wait to talk more about that, but I haven't gotten far enough in. Yeah, gonna be good. And then last but not least, I am just about done with Suikoden 1. I was streaming that this morning. We're at the last boss now, and so I'm gonna probably jump on for like 30 minutes after we record our podcasts, finish that, and then next week I'll be starting Suikoden 2 up. Exciting. Very exciting.
And we can watch that where?
At twitch.com/FancyRamenTV. My commentary is kind of inconsistent throughout the playthrough. If people are in the audience talking, there's usually like one or two people talking, or it's empty, I should say, in which that determines whether or not I'm going to be making a lot of commentary. If there's someone on, it's usually a back and forth, that sort of thing. Very, very chill.
I can dig it.
Well, Scott, what have you been playing?
A ton of games. Since I've been sort of stuck indoors for most of my free time, besides a snowboard outing, I have just been really tearing through the games. I found a couple deals during the Steam Winter Sale. I also finally pulled the trigger and purchased Gris, which we talked about last time. It may have been pronounced Gris previously, but now I am convinced that it is, in fact, French for the color gray. Let's see. Yeah. So I'm going to try and make it through my list quick enough because some of these games we can talk about in the future. I did want to note for the end of the year, Cookie, this may be valuable information to you, but Hinterland has actually released information that they are going to essentially release a Wintermute Redux for their first 2 chapters of The Long Dark. Let's see. I'm trying to pull up their forum post right now, but essentially, and I'd love your opinion on this, Neil, it seems to me as though their release was not what they anticipated, and so they've gone back and pretty much reworked the entire thing because they're finally coming to terms with that, I assume, or they thought their game was so good that it could use a little more work to show how good it was, which I think was more of the tone they were trying to take in their blog post on their website. Anyway, they acknowledged that the game needed some real work and repair, and so their Redux for the Wintermute is going to completely rework their dialogue. It's going to adjust their story to be experienced in first person. They're going to fully voice and animate characters. Cinematic moments have been completely reworked. Narrative content has been adapted. Their mission structure has been reworked. They've added some gameplay improvements to remove the backtracking and the bugginess of these story challenges. And I just wonder what brings a studio to do this so generously when their release was such a success, according to them.
It was the Hello Games effect. You know, that one game that came out that did awesome.
Yeah, No Man's Sky did great, right? It did amazing, and then they said, "Oh, we killed it. Good job, team." And they repaired the whole game. They spent more than a year reworking things to make it entertaining or enjoyable.
Have you experienced is the newly worked stuff out now, or
for Hello Games, or
it has not released yet? No, the Redux. Let's see.
Is that
actually
how
they just have released the overhauled versions. Never mind. This was their forum posts say that after December 17th they posted the Redux to fix it. And what'd you say, Cookie?
Is that how that's officially pronounced? And why is that
Redux?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's called Redux necessarily, because I mean it is a complete I guess it's a revision. And
brought back or revived.
Somebody just Googled Redux.
I did.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Redux. Or is an upside down E?
It's an sound.
Shit. Yep. Nope. It's Redux. Why is everyone using Redux? Because there's that one game that has all of their games is titled Redux.
I don't.
It's the shooter game.
Toho?
Oh, I'll find it.
Anyway, long story short, when Cookie and I shit on this game earlier at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe I'm kicking a community while it's down, and it's not okay to, really release, level this much criticism at an indie game that I hold near and dear to my heart before that moment. But this is vindication. This is complete acknowledgement that I loved the game, and I was at least somewhat tapped into the fact that this was not an enjoyable experience, I think, for most gamers and for people who had preferred what they had experienced of the game before playing the story.
I was out of that story by the time I got to the got up the hill and saw the crash plane, Scott.
Yeah.
I was over it by that point.
It's nice to see that they're doing this. I applaud any studio that says, oh, hey, we didn't do right with this, and so they go back and fix it. Though I think that's often a capital incentive, where, oh shit, we didn't make as much money as we thought, or it seems like a lot of our player base will not be returning to buy these extra chapters that we're currently working on because we released like such a sloppy first edition. Long story short, if you're interested in The Long Dark from when you listen to our podcast episodes and episodes back, almost a year ago now, this may be an okay time to try it out again and get back into it. There's been a lot of fixes and they've done a lot to like update the maps and whatnot. And I still think the format of the game is very fun. So I'm excited to see this.
And the game I was thinking about was Metro, but I guess their newest game was called Exodus. They've only had one game called Redux.
And I think that was actually a re-release, like a remaster.
That is correct. So makes total sense now.
Okay, second on the lineup. I have finished the Smash Adventure mode.
Holy, true ending?
The true ending.
Holy shit.
The 7 question marks in a row ending. Which, are you aware of what that entails, Cookie?
Yeah, it entails a balance between light and darkness, and then going down the fissure after defeating Master Hand and Crazy Hand.
Wait,
so you've done it too. You've done it too.
I've not.
He's seen it, though.
Okay,
I haven't even seen it. It was just like an article. It was like how to get the true ending of Smash, and I was like, "There's a true ending? The fuck?" And
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be work."
So the adventure mode is ultimately you fight across a big map to defeat Galeem, this literally like sun, like bright orb wrapped
winged
with
creature,
these wings that you see at the beginning of the trailer, and then
it's Angemon.
Yeah, or whatever. And then Galeem is the light guy. Darkon, that's who it is. Darkon, the dark eyeball with like black sort of more organic looking tentacles, comes in and shatters into the light universe. And then you go to the dark world and essentially fight across a map just like you did with the first end, and you defeat Darkon, and then the two fight each other to the death. And if you play their map right, where you essentially balance the light and the dark to get to different segments on the map, you defeat and release Crazy Hand and Master Hand, which smash through the dark and the light to create a fissure that you slip through. And then you fight as Master Hand in an all-star brawl mode against all like phantoms of all of the characters in Smash. And playing as Master Hand is one of the most fun things I've done in a very long time. It was an utter blast to finally turn the tables and get to play as the hand on Final Destination. It's the Battlefield version of Final Destination, I think. I can't remember exactly. But after you do that, you do an all-star mode slog from the bottom of a level, like ascending platforms that are getting smaller and smaller into these like tight fights where then you fight about 10 opponents at a time and avoid Galeem and Darkon's attacks as you like ascend up the screen to reach the summit, in which you have a face-off against every single boss that you've played in the game in a gauntlet. Without like this is all happening after the hand, without any sort of access to like new lives. There are recovery items that happen very intermittently, but it's like a maximum tomato every couple of fights. And so you go through this gauntlet, you defeat all the bosses one by one until you finally face off against Galeem and Darkon at the same time in like a massive Battlefield style arena. And if you defeat both of them without your 3 stock depleting, you get to finish the game successfully and unlock the large question mark panel in the bonus section. And it is by far my favorite I guess, campaign finish to a Smash Brothers game I've ever played.
You know, you've just told me
What?
I'm never beating this game.
It's very hard. My hands were fine, but I like stretched afterward, and I just saw that I had like stained sweat through my shirt because I had been so like locked in. And it's a long time. I mean, all of those boss fights, that gauntlet, it must have been like an hour ordeal to get from the start to the finish of that on its own, not including all of the story mode stuff that happens before it.
I was going to say, how many reattempts?
None. This was my first try. That's why I was soaked in sweat, is because I was like about ready to bite through my tongue of stress.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Never beaten that game. What else have you been playing?
Very fun. So I got Gris over the Christmas break and played that pretty much the entirety of Christmas Day. It is
now pronounced Gris.
Gris, yep. And it is the artsiest game I've played of 2018. It's very beautiful. The basic premise is a story of your character essentially coping with the death of a loved one, and her depression, like her struggle against her depression is manifest by you losing all the color in the world and you trying to solve puzzles and explore this like very beautiful watercolor-esque landscape that is revitalized with new elements every time you find a new color and restore it back to your palette on the screen. It's a relatively quick game. You can probably go start to finish with unlocking most of the like secrets within a couple hours tops. The one nice thing about it is some of those secrets are actually relatively difficult to find, so there is a chapter mode once you finish it to complete it and I guess unlock a secret ending or a secret video that you can see more context about the experience. But it's overall just very, very beautiful in its presentation and its audio. It has a great musical score as well. But that was simply, there's not much to say about that game. It's an enjoyable experience. It's relatively expensive, but if you view it as more of an artistic expression and a game in which you just get to see beautiful things a lot and hear beautiful things, it's probably worth it. If you're looking for some sort of like complex puzzle game or really anything beyond like a different form of journey, it's probably not for you. Especially it's also done alone. So the appeal of playing Journey and bumping into other players isn't there as well. Following Gris, I also beat Minit over the holiday break, which is a game in which you die every 60 seconds. And so you have to complete very small objectives across this like retro style black and white map. I don't know if either of you guys have seen this game before, but yeah.
It's the black and white game, right?
Very reminiscent of like original Zelda.
It is absolutely a like spiritual homage to the original Zelda. What's really cool about it is because of that 60-second time limit, where essentially you're like scrambling to complete any objective before you die and have to reset the game. It makes every single action have a lot more like weight and importance to it. And because there are secrets scattered about the game as well that aren't necessary for completing it, but unlocking at least a certain number of them are to find coins to buy shoes that give you more speed to move across the screen, which turns out is a non-essential item, but very helpful for the end. You have to like really peel apart this like low resolution landscape to find hidden paths, or if you go to cut down a tree and the tree is very tall, it may be half of your life just trying to chop it down in time before you die. There are characters who speak so slowly that committing to listening to their story is almost a 60-second endeavor on its own, which is kind of a fun and torturous gag the first time you encounter it. And the writing is really pretty charming. It's cute. It doesn't take itself very seriously. And the puzzles that you solve all kind of have a humorous twist to them for the most part. So go ahead.
Do you respawn in the same place every time?
The way that they work this through to make the map larger than what you can cross in 60 seconds is if you find a bed, you respawn near the most recent bed. And so I found a bed in a hut on an island. I had my own home in the game. There was a like Airstream style camping trailer that I took up residence in near a desert. And I stayed at a hotel for a little while as well. So if you find an unoccupied bed, you can essentially, when you find it, the screen like has a rotating white square that highlights the area and makes a sound that lets you know that you will respawn there for the next time. And then if you get to a certain point in the game, you can unlock little teleportation tiles. And then you can teleport around the map a little bit easier, so you don't have to cross it by like chaining from one bed to another.
Cool.
It's a fun game, very amusing. It's super like, once again, it's a very quick game to beat. I think I put in roughly 90 minutes to like an hour 45 of gameplay time to complete it, which I think really it comes into its own for the New Game Plus, which I haven't played, but it allows you to unlock like a speedrun mode, and I don't know what other options New Game Plus has to offer yet, but I'm looking forward to trying it out in the future here. Okay, last one on the list. I'm getting through this slog of games that I played. I just picked up a game called Moonlighter that was on the Steam sale that is a procedurally generated dungeon crawler that is mashed together with essentially a like merchant simulator. You play as a shopkeeper in which you have to adjust your prices for customers, stop thieves from stealing from your store, and overall like acquire items to sell in your shop. And then you can, in the realm of like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, spend money that you've earned from being a shopkeeper or collecting items in the dungeon to build up a town and revitalize the community that you live in, at the same time delving in a dungeon that plays along your basic, like, I guess, dungeon crawler mechanics with, you know, a dodge roll and some randomly generated assortments of pre-made like dungeon rooms and floors with enemies as you upgrade your equipment and delve deeper. That's a lot of fun. I haven't put in enough time to talk much more about it, except for the fact that you can tell when characters, or you can tell when NPCs find a deal that they either really think is like outrageously priced or just a little pricey and they're frustrated by it, to a good deal, all the way to they have gold coins glow in their eyes because they realize they're literally stealing from you at that price. And my goal in this game has been to avoid having people get really excited about getting a cheap deal off of me. But I've made the mistake of like putting out an item, putting up a price that I think is like relatively high and I'd like to earn for it, and then they get the like gold eyes and they walk off with all 5 of them that I have, and I realize that I should have put them out, say, one by one, and then slowly up the price to see where their limit was at.
Did you buy this game on Steam or Switch?
I bought it on Steam. I believe it's also available on Switch. The D-pad that I have on my Xbox One controller currently has the dish attachment to it. So it is a little bit more of a radial input than just the up, down, left, right. And I'm not sure yet if I'm more comfortable using a more rigid, like up, down, left, right scheme, or using the analog stick, because it is very much built in that grid format where the analog stick sometimes causes you to make moves that will have you roll into a pit that might be a little bit more avoidable if you were just doing the 4-directional pad.
So you bring up Harvest Moon. Do you think the story actually plays, like story and character development with the villagers plays a part in this game?
There's not a huge amount of story, but they're trying to have at least a little bit tied into it. There is some dialogue between your character and NPCs, both that they know or that are like random village people about the town. However, there's also kind of an unveiling mystery as you go further and further into the dungeon, where you're reading the notes of someone who's camped out in all of these dungeons and explored it. And I believe that it's hinted that this character may be your father, who went into the ruins and was never heard from again, which people talk about around town. And the, like, I think grandfather figure essentially lectures you for trying to go into the dungeons and learn their secrets because of your father's death or disappearance. So there is a story, but I haven't gotten far enough to really tap into it just yet.
Is the character customizable?
Yes, your character is customizable in the sense that your armor sets and your weapons that you use can be exchanged. I think there are 3 basic principles, which are you can have really heavy armor that reduces your movement speed but has health and protection bonuses or defense bonuses. You have steel, which is in that category. You have, I think, iron armor, which is neutral. It has the most all-around protection and no buff or debuff to speed. And then you have like leather/cloth armor that, and all of these can go down their own upgrade paths, but then the leather and cloth armor gives you added movement speed, which in some of these dungeons, I have gotten to a point where I've experienced multiple types or flavors of dungeon, essentially. There's a like gooey golem one that has slimes and golems for the most part. And then there's like a lava rock dungeon, and then there's also like a forest. And each one of them, the enemies all have their own flair. And so the like your defense or your movement speed and the type of weapons you use, I think really can affect how much of an impact you have in the combat in each of these dungeons. There are times in which using my spear seems like a really bad idea compared to using the sword and board setup. But there's also like fists for melee, or a giant like buster sword, sort of from Monster Hunter, where it's really slow to swing, but it does a ton of damage. Down to like a bow and arrow, so you can stay ranged, but do less damage overall with each attack.
This looks fairly interesting, and it's on sale right now for Switch, so I doubt I'm going to pull the trigger, but I may pull the trigger on this.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot of fun. I think it's accented with a couple moments in the beginning where you're still like learning things and ramping up, in which I felt like a little bit of boredom, or I felt just a little bit of grind. But as soon as I was able to like upgrade my weapons, which I think is the most important part, is upgrade your weapons first. It's very much in that Dark Souls vibe of like upgrading your weapon to do higher damage is the first move you want to make, just because you don't do enough damage to enemies at the start. And once you get to that like second tier of damage, it becomes a lot more reasonable how the combat plays out. But that's all I've got. I've only made it through, like 4 games in this week.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess I'll go next. I haven't made it through any games, but I've been I don't know if I
on
talked about this. Yeah, I don't know if I've talked about this, but did I mention Mana Spark last week?
Not that I can think
sweet.
of.
So yeah, after we got off the podcast last week, I actually ended up getting a game called Mana Spark, which is also a roguelike dungeon crawler, where instead of being a shopkeeper, you are the last human survivor in this land, and it's a 8-bit style, very, very slow and punishing. With the first character you get just uses a bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm.
The second character you get uses a crossbow. So the bow and arrow shoots very slowly, but has a lot of power, whereas the crossbow character, she shoots very fast. She has her dodge rolls like a 3 teleport system, whereas the first guy just has like a 1-time dodge roll out of the way. I've really been enjoying the bejeebers out of this game, and I've kind of been playing it almost religiously.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, and it gives me a lot of the Moonlighter vibes with a less pretty look.
Yeah, Moonlighter is definitely because this is very what would you say 8-bit, I think.
Yeah.
For Mana Spark, and Moonlighter's in that like 16-bit look. So there's like the pixels are a little bit better looking and more detailed. This bow looks like it's really slow to fire.
It's ridiculously slow.
Oh my gosh.
It's procedurally generated dungeons. Every time you go in to get a little bit further, you there's this really interesting mechanic. After you die, you can either choose to respawn back in your town/settlement,
Mm-hmm.
which then you could choose what loadout you have and then just start the adventure anew to go and hunt down and find more humans to build the settlement up even more. Or you can roll the dice, which quite literally says these are the things you have unlocked so far, and this is what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead and so it'll like pick it'll pick a random buff, an item, and what character you're using. Not all enemies are so. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. So like, most enemies are not going to be good for you, but not all things are. Word I'm looking for, aggressive. Yeah. So like they're they're pigs
Mm-hmm.
that wander around that drop meat. They have a lot more health and can absorb arrows through their tusks, but they're not actually
Aggressive
until you shoot at them. If there's an area with two wolves, but they're very far away from each other, and you attack one, they'll call the other wolf to come help them out. I've been enjoying it. It's got a very Goblin Slayer-esque vibe to how punishing it likes to be.
Mm-hmm. Every enemy encounter is potentially fraught with danger.
Correct, because you accidentally dodge roll into the wrong direction, or you hit the wrong button for putting out a trap, and then that person just did 2 damage out of the 3 damage that you start with one of the characters. And another character, the one with the crossbow, has 2
2
health.
hearts, yeah.
So I've been playing a lot of that, and then my in-laws, I guess my brother-in-law and his wife, introduced me and Lizzie to Tricky Towers, a game that came out in 2016 on what I believe was the iPad or something, but on the Switch, and we've kind of been addicted to that. We've been very addicted to that, which is pretty much just Tetris on physics.
Okay. So
Yeah, so it's
with that roll the dice, I don't want to miss this question. Is that the only way that you get a buff? Is if you take the roll the dice with the random loadout, then you get a buff, but in any other circumstance, when you select your stuff, there is no buff?
so you can actually choose loadouts with buffs.
Okay.
While you're in town. So like there's a guy who I've only unlocked 3 people. One person says, hey, whenever you're using this character, you've chosen to have this monster be weakened whenever you go against it. The one guy gives you an item that you can use, and then the third character I have cooks food for you that either says you can find more health or you've got better luck with getting coins for monsters. So when you roll the dice, it'll actually give you
A
those
random
options
assortment of all those.
plus like one of the times I rolled the dice, it was like, okay, you're not getting food, but all the mana crystals that you collected this time that you didn't get to drop off at a safe house, you get to take with you, which is really easy for me now to get to the first safe house. And I've only made it to the second safe house once because it's 2 boss battles in instead of 1. And it's like usually the same boss, so you start to learn patterns, and it is the same boss every time, but you start to learn patterns and kind of how they react, and it's a lot of fun. It's got a weird coin system, so mana is the thing that all humans lack, and that's what's really worth like getting all your upgrades. But when you go to safe houses, you can buy items, perks, and things like that using coins. But every time you start a new game, you start off with no coins. So it's usually like you can spend 5 coins or 7 coins or 10 coins if you get it to once you get to the safe house to guarantee what you're going to get, or you can spend 1 coin and it gives you a choice of like 3 random things that you could possibly pick up. It's like, okay, well, let's just... So I've been enjoying the bejeebers out of that. Then the last couple of things that I've been playing is, as you guys know, Christmas happened. And I don't think we've talked to each other since then. We have not.
Not really, no.
So me and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, we all had a board game gift exchange where me and Lizzie ended up with a game called Azul, and it won some big award for 2017 or 2018. It's a Portuguese tile making game.
I've heard of this, yeah.
It is a delight and a lot of fun to play. So we've played multiple games of that, and then me and Lizzie grabbed Betrayal, House on the Haunted Hill. I forget what the actual official title is, but, Betrayal, that game.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to play a couple of rounds of those because my sister-in-law actually received that one, so she actually spent the night one night. And we just went through a couple of different haunts and scenarios. Also a lot of fun. So I've been playing some board games as well. That's about all I've been playing. Boo-doo-boo-ba-doo-boo-boo.
I guess it might be a perfect time to bring up that we had a couple emails that got spam filtered, and hence we never got them forwarded over to our real emails. And I check that thing like once a month since we normally get things forwarded over. So we might have missed your email if you sent it within more than the last 30 some days, because that's, I think, how often the spam filter automatically deletes emails. So I've got 2.
So what you're saying is you need to set an alarm for yourself to check the spam? Yeah,
or something. I need to maybe take a look, because I get a shit ton of spam in the podcast email. Which I don't think is related to anyone signing us up to spam. I think it's because I'm using Zoho Mail as our host. And I think that's a bad email provider. In case unless you're from Zoho Mail, which I think your service is great, and I'm happy it's free.
We'd love to advertise for you.
Long story short, Gmail or Google started charging for that service shortly after I got fancyramen.com, so I was not going to pay for Gmail.
Wait, so you can't just create like a random Gmail account anymore?
You can. If you want a custom domain, though, you end up paying for certain things, certain Google apps now for those.
Why don't we just have people contact us at fancyramen@gmail.com?
I think that's actually used up right now. That's the problem. Is it not?
I don't know.
I have a sneaking suspicion that would be way too popular, or like that the name would be used by someone who likes ramen. Like the 3 of us.
I mean, don't we? Yeah.
So, and I can always move it over at some point in time if we get enough emails to warrant it. So this first one is from Sam. I've watched some of your Let's Plays, but it seems like your podcast is entirely different people. Is there ever any cross between the game crew and podcast crew?
Rarely.
I'm in both.
I'm tired of Neil, but
that said, we usually try and get at least one podcast with the other guys on, like for Game of the Year. And we were talking about possibly doing a Dungeons and Dragons thing later, or not Dungeons and Dragons, but like RP. I don't know if it was D&D specific, but
I think it was D&D specific. I don't know any other game rule mechanics that I'll well enough to run anything else.
Yeah, so a D&D campaign with Cookie at the helm.
Holy shit, we could play Legacy, Pandemic Legacy with you guys,
which is something that only you know about. Until I do this Google. No, it's fine.
So basically it's Pandemic, the board game. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of like the legacy games. So instead of taking it as like a one-shot game, it actually creates a story. So the Pandemic Legacy, I've got both season 1 and season 2 that I haven't opened or played, where it's a 12-month. It's 12 sessions at least, unless you fail a session. Each session is like 1 month time period. So instead of every time you get together, people pick random things, the viruses are spread, and you just kind of solve it or you lose in one session. It's quite literally a story of how a virus started here and then slowly spread, and you and your team are trying to figure out the best way to get this going, get this solved.
I mean, this is my bread and butter right here. I feel like I have an edge at it.
For 2 to 4 players.
Yeah, so we've got one too many people, or two too many people.
Well, so if you played with them, like, it'd be cool for me to work on a video where I was solely behind the camera and working on the production element more so.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider too. I still think we should do the D&D thing as well, and then get dressed up for it. And by dressed up, I mean we buy a fucking Viking hat for the barbarian in the party. That's it.
There you go.
I mean, if you're not willing to craft your own, that's a fine second option.
But I'm just saying not go. Like, we're not going to go and spend hundreds of dollars on cosplay.
But we will on smeltable steel.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's something that we can also do, because running a D&D campaign is both a lot of fun and very hard. Did I tell you, Scott, I almost killed my party again?
That's my goal anymore these days.
Get your party killed.
Kill at least one person.
It's really hard not to. It's like, okay, you guys are adventurers. Here are a couple of humans. This should be a pretty not even fight.
Yeah, you should be stomping this, and then somebody gets lucky. It's the Fire Emblem principle, in my opinion. There's a 3% chance for your enemy to crit on your 1 weak unit. Well, they hit that 3%.
Uh-oh. So why don't you always do you not enter all of your encounters with like a contingency plan?
The contingency plan is they are the heroes. They are going to win. This should be a very easy fight. It's like, if I want to make this fight fair, I can either... So a fair fight with my adventurers would be them going against 2 kobolds per person.
Mm-hmm.
I put them against 3 kobolds total and almost wipe them.
Wait, when you say kobolds, do you mean like the wolf people?
They're weak little lizard people
weak little lizard people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my God. So it's like whenever I play Dungeons and Dragons with Scott, Howard, my character, almost drowned several times. When I'm the dungeon master, I'm rolling fucking nat 20s and 19s like all the time.
Which in that case are bad rolls for your adventurers.
Right.
To be
No.
I
I understand that much. I just figure that like every time, I not to go off on a side tangent too much. I've always envisioned that like a GM's role is like so different from a typical storyteller, because you always have to have like, at least I assume, plans for if things go south, plans for if things go really well, and plans for players that completely try to derail your story. So I just assume like one of the things you do is like, if you say create an encounter with a dragon, you have to figure out what would happen if the dragon wins. Like, does the dragon take or does it take like one of the characters off in its claws and then like it flies away, and then the rest of your party has to figure out how to save that person while the person the party member that got pulled away has to try and sneak away afterwards?
So that's not bad. I want to take the reins for a second for how the sausage is made, at least on how I run a campaign. And that is, if you're trying to give your players a lot of free will, sometimes you'll set up contingencies like that, and then they will aggro the dragon so much that there's no way that it's intending on like carrying anyone away as a capture anymore. They've pissed it off. It's going to slice them. Like, it's going to tear them apart if it wins. And sometimes they don't have the like mental capacity to realize that running away is always an option.
So isn't that
they'll,
a failing?
They'll walk face first into a punch because they're like, well, I'm a hero. I'm going to be knocked out. And so it's one of those things in which if you write contingencies, sure. But sometimes I'll write ideas for fights or encounters that never even happen because they're like, yeah, fuck that idea. We're not going to do that. Or what'll happen is they'll create their own like encounter or fight that I wasn't planning on, that I thought that they could resolve peacefully, and all of a sudden they're fighting someone that like really was never intended to be a combatant, and they're losing hard because well, that person's just a lot stronger than they are, and they didn't seem to realize that.
And I'll also say I DM in more of a fuck it, we'll do it live type of sense. So when one of my characters went down, she failed 2 of her death saves before any other character was like, oh shit, we can do a medicine check. As I was like, as soon as she went down, remember guys, you have a healer on your team. Sure, he is a wolf right now, so he can't actually heal, but you have a healer on your team that can stabilize her immediately. Also, anyone can perform a medicine check. It's fine to stabilize her.
Players
make your death safe.
Players are sometimes, I think it's more fun for them to come to ideas on their own. And so I'm always very reticent to like give them a suggestion. If I say that there's like something going on and no one decides to take a perception check, I'm not going to make them do it. They're just going to blissfully ignore something. I had a complete encounter scenario set up once, and I can't remember which group it was with. I am almost certain it was not Cookie's group, but the other one that I host, in which there was a character that they bumped into on 3 separate occasions that were all times for them to interact and, you know, connect with this person, which would have put them further on their quest. And each time, they just blew right by it. I think they antagonized the guy at first, and then they ignored him, and then they just were completely oblivious to the 3rd iteration. So truly, it makes the game more fun and exciting for both parties, but it is also immensely frustrating. And so sometimes you kind of want them to die. You kind of want that bad roll to go through.
It's just like, yeah, sometimes you're just like, no, I'm just gonna let this play out.
I mean, I can even say, to keep it short, I was not trying to kill Cookie, but Cookie's character had definitely received a lot of aggro in the last encounter that we had, and I was actively trying to do more harm to him, but I wasn't rolling well enough to do it. So I had a lot of attacks come up to Cookie and then miss and then walk away, you know?
It was very annoying, but it's okay. The thing that almost killed me was myself.
Yeah. So
literally trying to swim across a lake.
You got to roll the dice, Neil.
And this might be the best way to cap off your answer, which is if you've watched some of our gameplay videos, I think the 2 groups of people have very different personalities. So
yeah, I'd like to think that, you know, I'm sort of the buck of this podcast. But yeah, there is definitely a distinct departure between the types of entertainment we provide. However, I will say I love those guys, and talking to them on the podcast has always been a blast.
Yeah, for sure.
It is hard to coordinate that many people at once, which is another reason why we end up with sort of segmented approaches to what we do.
Yeah, the logistics behind having 7 people at once,
all adults with jobs that live in different areas, like that's already tricky enough.
I want to say the last time that you got together with Buck and the guys, Neil, you invited me, and I was like, yeah, no, I'll come. And then I was like, oh, never mind. I've actually got previous engagements.
Oh, right. We streamed Smash Brothers. Smash Bros.
Oh, yeah. I need to become their friends. Do they have Switches then?
Yeah, 2 of them do. Keith does not.
Ooh,
okay.
Despite Keith being the one that would probably benefit the most from all the like JRPG titles.
Oh yeah.
Okay, second email. We'll get through it, then we'll split. This one's from Kevin. Hey guys, I've listened to a handful of your most recent podcast episodes, which by the time of this email was probably like quite a few in the past. So just saying
So sorry,
much.
Kevin.
Maybe I'm not listening far enough back, but what's with the Xbox hate? You guys seem to give a free pass to Sony for some of their questionable practices, but seem so anti-Microsoft.
Well, Microsoft dicked me over, so that's why I'm anti-Microsoft. But I want to say on the last episode, I literally said I hope Sony does the thing
This
that
Xbox policy for
that Xbox Game Pass
yeah.
is almost convincing me. But back in the Xbox 360 days, I was full on Team Emeralds, and for whatever reason, my Xbox subscription lapsed and didn't lapse at the same time, where I was buying the prepaid cards every year. And somehow, before one prepaid card ended, I actually put another prepaid card on. And then Microsoft was like, "You've got 3 months of back pay that haven't gone through because the credit card we have on file that I didn't actually put anything on wasn't valid. So we need this much money from you before we can turn your live back on." And I was just like, "Oh, no, I've got this card here. I should be able to play." And they're like, "Nah, man." And I was like, "Okay." And at that time, one of my friends knew I had a PlayStation 3, and they had actually bought me a year's worth of PlayStation Plus anyway. So I was still receiving free games and neglecting the PlayStation 3. And then I kind of looked and I was like, "Damn, Sony, you've been giving me free games and I've been neglecting you? Man, I'm such a joker to your Harley Quinn. I'm going to appreciate you more."
I do want to ask, because I kept myself from bringing it up, I think because we were running long on time, but PlayStation Now allows you to download games too, so I don't see how that's different from Xbox's service.
Xbox also includes new games. Yeah, so like the Assassin's Creed Odyssey is on the Game Pass, whereas I want to say the newest game on the PlayStation Now is not new. And is their pricing on PlayStation Now better? Because when they first released it, it was a waste of money. It was like rent a game for 5 minutes for $1 or $30 for a month. And I'm like, you might as well just buy the game at that point.
Yeah, I don't remember what the pricing is for it. Their most recent games are Elder Scrolls Online, Mafia 3, Bloodborne, XCOM 2, Sniper Elite 4, and For Honor, at least according to this website. So yeah, they do have older games on there.
Which is much older games, whereas they're like, oh yeah, the Xbox Game Pass or the Play Anywhere, it's got Forza 4 on it. And I'm just like, does this work for my PC? Because I don't mind going for another subscription to get more Forza in my life.
I get you.
And I don't have any Xbox hate, but I don't have an Xbox. So my Microsoft interactions are only really on that PC end anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And
I also don't have an Xbox.
And to distinguish the difference between Microsoft and Xbox for a second, I think just like every other person that uses Windows, I have like a love-hate relationship with it. So that maybe that throws some flack on Microsoft, not to say that connects to Xbox, but I do also hate the Microsoft Store, which I don't think these guys share the same hatred for. And I don't necessarily think I'm that anti-Xbox. I think I'm more
Anti-Microsoft Store because it blew up your one computer multiple times.
Yeah, it blew up the computer we're recording, do all of our production on multiple times. And my bigger thing too is that I think we give a fair amount of criticism to Sony. It's just that like some of the problems that Sony has haven't affected me in any direct way. Like with Fortnite and crossplay, I don't give a shit. And if I did play Fortnite, I'd play it on PC. Like I see these consoles more as exclusive boxes, and that's I think where a lot of my criticisms for Xbox come from right now, which is what is exclusive. Like my PC is going to play anything better than any console. and my PC is Microsoft, or it has Windows, so it's going to be able to play every game so far, with the exception of like Halo 5 and Gears of War, whatever one is the newest.
Oh, no, Gears is on PC.
Is it on now? So Halo 5 is basically it. And like, being that I'm not a huge shooter fan, like I think we've also given share credit to Microsoft this year, especially with the fact that they're trying to listen more to their gamer audience, and they also brought up the accessibility controller.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we gave them some serious kudos for that.
Like, I want the marketplace to be more competitive, because that's ultimately better for us. And it sucks because, like, I mean, we haven't, it's not like we're facing any issues with lack of competitiveness right now. We're getting a lot of good, like, Sony exclusives at this point, and I think that's been I think that's a reflection of Sony being competitive to Microsoft. But it's just a bummer because Microsoft has also canceled like a handful of games over the last 3 or 4 years that were Xbox exclusive, and so we have nothing to show for it at this point. Like, I want them to succeed, especially if they keep putting their exclusives on PC, because that helps me as a predominant PC gamer directly.
Mm-hmm.
And
doesn't help me. Doesn't help me at all.
and like like, again, I maybe we kind of glossed over it, but like, Sony is doing some stupid shit right now with their censorship. It's just a matter of like seeing exactly how bad that is, and until it actually affects me, I can be mad about it, but until I actually see what damage Sony's censorship does, like, I feel like I'd be reacting to nothing. Like, I feel like it'd be a knee-jerk reaction. So, but good questions. Send any and all in. I'm sure. Like,
I promise Neil will start checking these once a week.
Yeah, I'll
use
check
the
them a
header
little more
spam
often
for greater success.
And you can write those to podcast@fancyramen.com.
Don't be afraid to leave a like and a review on the Apple Podcasts app, which I'm checking right now to see if we've got enough reviews yet.
And please leave a like and review in your friend's ear and tell them about our podcast.
I'm Cookie.
Yeah, that does it for this episode. I'm Neil.
And I'm Scott. We'll see you later.
Peace.